You ever wonder why some people walk into a room and everyone takes notice? They don't beg for attention. They command it. Without a word, they pull the spotlight toward them. Not because they're the loudest, but because they understand something most people don't. They've unlocked psychological strategies that silently say, respect me, value me, prioritize me. This isn't about manipulation, it's about power, self-awareness, and strategy. So, if you're tired of being overlooked, underestimated, or just forgotten, listen up. Because these 9 strategies, they will shift how the world sees you, not tomorrow, today. The first thing you have to get is this. Humans are wired to respond to confidence, not arrogance. Certainty. You don't have to be the most qualified in the room, but if you act like you belong, people will believe you do. You train yourself to stop asking for permission. Stop waiting for someone to validate you. Start speaking with authority. Stand like your presence matters. Because here's the truth. People treat you the way you teach them to treat you. If you whisper through life, don't be surprised when no one listens. Then there's energy. You walk in low, tired, dragging your feet, and that's the impression you leave behind. Energy is contagious. If you can bring even 10% more presence into the space you enter, people will respond. They don't always hear your words. They feel your vibration. So when you walk into a meeting, a date, an interview, show up on purpose. Don't just exist. Enter. Make people feel something just by showing up fully. That's not accidental. That's calculated. Now here's where it gets serious. Silence. Learn to be comfortable with silence. Most people rush to fill gaps. They over-explain. They justify. They ramble because silence makes them anxious. But the powerful, they wait. They let their words land. They sit in silence and hold eye contact. Because they know that pause, it creates weight. And people lean in when there's weight. You want priority. Learn to say less, but mean more. Another psychological weapon. Boundaries. People don't value what's always available, and if you're always saying, yes, always reachable, always on call, you're teaching people you have no limits. You want priority. Set your limits. Don't answer texts at midnight. Don't let people walk into your space uninvited. Boundaries are not walls. They're gates, and gates open only when you decide. That creates respect. Respect creates priority. Let's talk about unpredictability. Predictable people become invisible. If everyone can guess your next move, you're easy to dismiss. But if you occasionally surprise people, challenge their assumptions, break routine, you stay memorable. Strategic unpredictability keeps people interested. They start watching you more closely. They start recalibrating. You don't need to shock the system. You just need to keep them guessing enough to remain relevant. Then there's scarcity. When something is rare, it's valuable. That's economics. But it's also psychology. If you're always available, you're taken for granted. But if you create moments of absence, if you disappear, go silent, or withdraw intentionally, people notice. They remember. You train them to miss your presence. And what's missed becomes wanted. Here's another secret weapon: the power of eye contact. Most people avoid it. They look away. They scan the room. But sustained, calm eye contact communicates something primal. I'm here. I'm not afraid. I see you, and you're going to see me too. It creates connection. It builds trust, or discomfort. Either way, it makes people prioritize your presence. Your gaze says, I'm not hiding, and neither should you. Emotional control is everything. People lose power when they lose control. The moment you react impulsively, raise your voice, snap back, cry on command, you hand the reins over to someone else. But when you stay calm in conflict, when you regulate yourself while others spiral, you become the emotional anchor in the room. That's power. People lean toward the one who stays steady. That's the person they start looking to for leadership, for safety, for answers. And finally, your language. The words you choose shape how people feel around you. Eliminate weak phrases. I think. I'm sorry to bother you. I just. No. Speak like your voice matters. Replace apology with authority. Stop using disclaimers before you've even said something. Your words must reflect your belief in yourself. Speak with intention. Speak with purpose. Because the way you speak tells people how they're allowed to treat you. These strategies are not tricks. They're tools. Tools to shift the dynamic in any room, in any relationship, in any situation. Use them, and people won't just see you. They'll prioritize you. Because they'll feel something they don't feel with everyone else. They'll feel your presence, and presence it is power. You walk into a room, and before you even speak, eyes start to measure you. People are scanning, wondering, is this someone I need to pay attention to? And the answer isn't in what you say. It's in how you carry yourself. Confidence, real confidence, isn't about being loud or dominant. It's about certainty. That quiet, unwavering belief that you belong, even if no one else says so. You don't wait to be acknowledged. You act like you're already valued. Because people mirror what you project. If you walk in hesitating, second-guessing, head down, they will treat you accordingly. But if your shoulders are back, your voice is grounded, and your presence says, I know who I am, then they won't question it. They'll align with it. The truth is, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't need the best title or the flashiest resume. But if you believe you deserve to be there, others will start believing it too. That belief creates authority. That energy communicates strength. Most people don't realize this. Confidence isn't a feeling. It's a decision. You decide to stand in your value before anyone else does. And when you do, the room shifts. People listen more closely. They engage differently. You stop being someone they overlook and become someone they instinctively respect. That's the first real step toward becoming a priority in anyone's world. You make the silent decision to treat yourself like one first. Most people don't realize how much their energy speaks before they ever open their mouth. You can wear the right clothes, say all the right things, have the perfect credentials. But if your energy is off, people feel it. You walk in sluggish, distracted, halfway present, and they'll treat you like background noise. But the moment you decide to show up with full presence, everything changes. You become magnetic. Energy doesn't lie. You can't fake it. You have to generate it. You walk into that room like you belong there, like you've got something people need to hear. That's not arrogance. That's purpose. When you bring energy, people lean in. They want to know who you are, what you're about. You make them feel something. And the people who make us feel something, they're the ones we remember. They're the ones we prioritize. You don't need to be bouncing off the walls or turning every moment into a performance. It's not about volume. It's about presence. It's about being fully there. Eyes up, shoulders squared, focus locked in. That intensity, that certainty, that's the energy that makes people stop and say, who is this person? That's when you stop blending in and start standing out. And it's not something you wait to feel. It's something you choose to bring. Every time you walk through the door, most people are terrified of silence. The moment there's a pause, they rush to fill it with noise. Nervous laughter, over-explaining, rambling that dilutes the message. But the truth is, silence is power. Silence makes people uncomfortable because it forces them to feel. It forces them to listen. And when you learn to own the silence, you start to own the room. You say what you need to say, then you stop and wait. You let your words land. You give them space to echo. That pause. That's where your authority lies. Because confident people don't rush. They don't race to prove themselves. They understand that the most powerful messages aren't just spoken. They're felt. When you're comfortable with silence, you become unpredictable. You create tension. And that tension pulls people in. It makes them pay closer attention. It makes them lean forward, because they want to know what's coming next. And that moment of anticipation, that's where influence begins. You're not chasing the conversation anymore. You're leading it. You're in control. And the more you master the ability to sit in silence with confidence, the more others will start to treat your words like they matter. Because they do. Because you said them with intention. And you gave them room to breathe. That's how you make people remember what you said long after you've stopped talking. Everyone talks about wanting to be respected, to be seen, to be treated like a priority. But very few are willing to do what it takes to earn that kind of treatment. Respect doesn't come from being nice, being available, being agreeable. It comes from one thing: boundaries, not walls, not distance, standards. You see, when you have no boundaries, you teach people that your time isn't valuable, that you don't value your own energy, that you'll say yes even when it costs you. And when you do that consistently, you become forgettable, not because you're not good, but because you're always there. Because people assume you'll always be there. and anything that's always there gets taken for granted. That's human psychology. But the moment you start drawing lines, clear, direct, unapologetic lines, you trigger something very different. People take notice. They start adjusting how they approach you. You no longer feel like an option. You start to feel like a decision. And the truth is, we don't prioritize people who are always bending over backward for us. We prioritize the people who show us how they want to be treated and won't tolerate anything less. That's what boundaries do. They create structure, they communicate self-respect, and they force others to either rise to meet you or fall away. Either way, you win. Because the people who can't respect your boundaries were never supposed to have access to you in the first place. So let's be real. This is where most people get stuck. They think setting a boundary means you're being mean, difficult, selfish. But that's a lie we've been fed to keep us small. Strong boundaries don't make you cruel. They make you clear. They show people where you begin and where they end. And people need that. Because the truth is, when you allow others to walk all over your limits, you're not just hurting yourself. You're enabling behavior that reinforces disrespect. You're teaching others that your needs are negotiable, your time is flexible, your peace is optional. And the world will treat you exactly how you let it. Now let me be blunt, boundaries will be tested. Every single time, you'll say no and someone will push. You'll ask for space and someone will guilt trip you. You'll say you're unavailable and they'll act offended. That's normal. That's what happens when you shift the dynamic. When you stop playing the role they liked and start stepping into who you really are. But you hold. You stay firm. Because your boundary is not a request. It's a requirement. You don't have to yell. You don't need to justify. You don't have to give a full explanation. No is a full sentence. That doesn't work for me is powerful. I'm not available at that time is enough. You don't owe anyone more than that. And here's where everything starts to change. When you keep your boundaries consistent, something clicks. People stop pushing. They adapt. They stop testing you because they realize if they can't. That's when respect becomes the norm, not the exception. That's when people start prioritizing you. Not because you demanded it, but because you modeled it. You showed them what it looks like to honor yourself, and in return, they learned how to honor you. Now let me give it to you straight, setting boundaries isn't just about other people. It's about you. It's about how you see yourself. When you raise your standards, your worlds to reflect those standards back to you. The relationships that once drained you begin to fade. The situations that once overwhelmed you stop showing up. Why? Because your energy has shifted. Your time is no longer up for grabs. Your focus is no longer a free-for-all. You've become intentional, strategic, selective. And that creates scarcity, which creates value. You don't have to be available to everyone. You don't have to respond to every message. You don't have to prove your worth through exhaustion. Let that go. That's not strength. That's survival. And you weren't born to survive. You were born to lead. Leaders don't overextend. They don't people please. They prioritize themselves first, because they understand that when their foundation is strong, they have more to offer the world, not less. So think about where your time goes. Who gets your attention? Who drains it? Who multiplies it? Where do you say yes when you mean no? Where do you shrink to keep the peace? Where do you disappear so others can shine? All of that needs to be audited. Because if you don't protect your time, your energy, your boundaries, no one else will. That's your job. That's your responsibility. That's your power. And no, it's not always going to be easy. You'll lose people. You'll disappoint people. You'll get labeled. But what you gain is freedom, peace, control, and the incredible ability to attract the right people, the right opportunities, the right kind of respect. Because you've stopped performing and started living from truth. You stopped being available to everyone, and in doing so, you became someone worth waiting for. This is how you move from being tolerated to being respected, from being included to being prioritized. You stop trying to prove you're worthy, and you start living like you already are. And the people who recognize that, they rise. The ones who don't, they fall away. That's not loss. That's alignment. Boundaries aren't barriers, they're invitations. Invitations for others to rise the standard you set. So set it high, set it strong, and never lower it for anyone who refuses to grow. Because you, your time, your peace, they are not negotiable. They are your greatest assets. Protect them, and watch how fast the world starts protecting them, too. Predictability is comfortable, but it's also forgettable. If everyone can guess what you're going to do, how you'll respond, how you'll show up, you start to blend into the background, and people don't prioritize what they can predict. They get used to you. They stop noticing. They take your consistency for granted because they assume they already know you. But when you introduce a little strategic unpredictability, just enough to break the pattern, you disrupt that assumption. And in that disruption, you become memorable. You become intriguing. People start paying closer attention. They recalibrate their expectations. And when people can't quite place you, they start watching you. This isn't about being erratic or fake. It's about making sure you're not stuck in a pattern that makes you invisible. You don't need to change everything. But change something. Speak up in the meeting when you normally stay quiet. Say no when people expect a yes. Change your routine, change your tone, shift your presence just enough to surprise them. That moment of surprise. That's where perception shifts. That's where people start reassessing your value. Because now you're not just familiar. You're dynamic. And dynamic people command attention. They make others adjust. And anyone who makes people adjust their behavior automatically rises in importance. What most people don't realize is that power doesn't come from always being consistent. It comes from being aware of your patterns and breaking them with intention. Keep them guessing, not because you're playing games, but because you refuse to let anyone box you in. The moment people think they've figured you out, they stop seeing your depth. So you keep evolving. You stay one step ahead. You learn to love the element of surprise, because every time you do something they didn't expect, you remind them that you are not to be underestimated. And that's what makes someone unforgettable. Not just what they say or do, but the fact that you can't quite pin them down. There's always more. A layer they didn't see coming, a move they didn't anticipate. That keeps you top of mind. That makes them consider you in moments they wouldn't have before. Because now, you're not just present, you're interesting, you've shifted from ordinary to exceptional. And the exceptional always get priority. Scarcity creates value. That's not just economics, it's human behavior. What people can't have easily, they want more. What they see less of, they chase. And yet, most people make themselves too available, too accessible. Always replying, always showing up, always saying yes, always being present. Even when they're exhausted, even when it costs them. But the truth is, if you want to be prioritized, you cannot be common. You have to be rare, not in who you are, but in how often you give people access to you. Because the minute someone knows they can reach you anytime, interrupt you any day, rely on you constantly, they stop valuing that access. It becomes expected, assumed, taken for granted. Now don't confuse presence with worth. You are already worthy. But if you give too much of yourself, you train people to stop noticing you. When you're always around, you fade into the background. But when you pull back with intention, when you create space, silence, absence, people begin to feel it. They start realizing what they miss when you're not there. And that realization builds respect. People don't chase what's constantly in their face. They chase what they have to earn. This is not about playing games. It's about protecting your energy. You don't owe everyone your time just because they want it. You don't have to explain yourself every time you say no, and you are not required to be accessible 247 to prove your value. In fact, the more you protect your access, the more others will learn to value that access. Because they understand, it's not a given, it's not guaranteed. It's earned through respect, consistency, and reciprocity. And here's where people get it wrong. They think that being scarce means being distant, cold, unavailable. No, it means being intentional. You choose when to show up. You choose when to engage. You show up in full presence, and then you step back. You don't need to explain where you went or why. Your absence will speak for itself. It will make people think. It will make them reflect. And the next time you do show up, they won't take it lightly. Because now, your presence means something. You don't become a priority by constantly proving yourself. You become a priority by positioning yourself as not always within reach. Not because you're playing hard to get, But because you understand your value, you don't beg for attention. You become so grounded, so focused, so powerful in your absence that people feel it. They feel the shift when you're gone. And that's what makes them lean in closer when you return. That's how respect grows. That's how your presence starts carrying weight. So stop giving yourself away so easily. Start being selective with your time. Create space. Let people experience the silence that comes when you're not available. Let them wonder what you're building, where your focus is, what you're becoming. And when they do see you again, let them feel the elevation in your energy, because the rarer you are, the more power you hold. And people prioritize power they can't take for granted. Most people can't even hold eye contact for 3 seconds without looking away. They glance down, they shift their gaze, they fidget, because deep down, they're afraid of being seen. But the moment you lock eyes with someone and stay there, something powerful happens. You're no longer just a presence in the room, you become a force. You say nothing, but your eyes speak. They say, "I'm here, I'm aware, I see everything." That kind of energy, that makes people stop. It unsettles the insecure and empowers the grounded. And it silently tells the world, you're not hiding, you're not afraid. That alone will separate you from 99% of people. Eye contact is primal, it's instinctual. It's the first way humans communicated trust, or threat. When you master it, you trigger something deep in people. They feel your presence without a word. You could be the quietest person in the room, but when your eyes are calm, steady, and locked in, people will remember you. Because most are used to being looked past, not into. And when someone looks into you with no fear, no hesitation, no performance, it creates a jolt. That's when they start listening differently. That's when your words start landing deeper. Because now, you've made it personal. Now, they feel you. This isn't about intimidation. It's not about staring people down. It's about holding space, unapologetically. It's about showing people that you don't need to speak to be heard, that you can lead without raising your voice. Your gaze becomes a mirror. It shows people who they are, and reveals who you are. It separates the authentic from the fake, the bold from the nervous. Because only someone grounded in themselves can hold eye contact without flinching, without needing to fill the silence, without needing to shrink. Most people don't even realize the message they're sending when they avoid it. They're signaling discomfort, insecurity, doubt. But when you look directly at someone, especially in high-pressure moments, you're communicating control. You're telling them you're not shaken. You're not backing down. You're not here to impress. You're here to connect. That's a rare kind of presence. That's the kind of presence that earns respect. And that kind of respect turns into priority. You want people to treat you like a leader. Then learn to carry yourself like one, starting with your eyes. Hold them steady. Let them see that you're not hiding behind words or smiles. Let your presence penetrate, because when people feel truly seen by you, they respond. They either rise to meet you, or they retreat. Either way, you've made an impact. And impact makes you unforgettable. Impact puts you at the front of the line. And you don't get that by saying more. You get it by being more. Especially in silence. Especially in the moments when your eyes say everything your words never have to. Control your emotions, or someone else will. That's the raw truth. The moment you let your feelings hijack your behavior, you hand over your power. You let someone else dictate your energy, your decisions, your presence. And that is exactly how people lose respect. Because the one who stays calm when everyone else is losing their grip. That's the person who commands the room. People trust stability. They're drawn to it. In chaos, they seek out the calmest voice, the one who doesn't flinch, who doesn't react, who doesn't take the bait. That person becomes the leader, even in silence. But most people live on emotional autopilot. They get offended easily, triggered quickly, they lash out, they crumble under pressure. And every time they do, they reinforce the idea that they're not in control of themselves. And if you can't manage you, why should anyone else treat you like a priority? Why should anyone trust you with pressure, responsibility, or influence? Emotional control isn't about being cold. It's about being composed. It's about knowing how to feel deeply without responding impulsively. You can feel anger. You can feel frustration. You can even feel fear. But don't let it leak into your decisions. Don't let it show up in your tone, your posture, your words. The most powerful person in the room is never the loudest. It's the one who doesn't need to prove anything. You don't explode. You don't breathe. You pause. You speak with precision, not emotion. And that controlled response, it carries weight. Because people don't expect it. They're used to reactions. But when they see you hold your center, when they see you refuse to be pulled into emotional games, they recognize strength. And strength always earns priority. Let them try to provoke you. Let them underestimate you. Let them throw noise at you. You stay still. You let the storm pass. Because while they're watching for your reaction, what you're actually doing is watching them. Gathering information, reading patterns, holding your ground. And when it's time to respond, you do it strategically, not emotionally. That's how you maintain power. That's how you build it. When you control your emotions, you control your outcomes. You don't speak just to speak. You don't fight battles that don't deserve your energy. You don't let temporary feelings destroy permanent reputations. And in a world where everyone's reacting, exploding, crying out for attention, you become the rare one. The one who doesn't get rattled. The one people trust in crisis. The one they look to when things go sideways. That's real power. And real power doesn't chase priority. It attracts it. Words are everything. They are the armor or the weapon. They either elevate you or erase you. And too many people sabotage themselves with the way they speak. They use weak, apologetic language that immediately tells others, I'm not sure. I don't trust myself. I don't believe I belong here. You've heard it. I just wanted to say, sorry to bother you, but I think maybe. All of it soft, uncertain, hesitant. That kind of language doesn't inspire respect. It doesn't command attention. It signals insecurity. And if you don't sound sure of yourself, don't expect anyone else to be. You don't need to be aggressive to be powerful. But you do need to be intentional. Every word you use, every sentence you form, tells people how to perceive you. Are you someone they need to listen to? Or someone they can dismiss? And it starts with eliminating the fluff. Cut the disclaimers. Stop shrinking your message to protect people's feelings. Replace, I just think, with, I believe. Replace, sorry to interrupt, with let me add something here. Use your voice like it matters, because it does. You don't ask permission to speak. You speak with purpose. And here's the thing, strong language doesn't mean more words. It means clearer words. Fewer words. It means removing the, maybe, the kind of, the if that makes sense. Because all those fillers, they dilute your presence. They make you sound like you're trying to convince yourself while speaking. But when your words are sharp, clean, and direct, people pay attention. They respond differently. They trust you more. Why? Because you sound like someone who trusts themselves. Most people don't realize that their voice is one of the first ways they teach people how to treat them. It's a signal. It's a boundary. It's a command. And every time you speak from a place of doubt, you invite people to question you. But when you speak from a place of clarity and conviction, even if your voice shakes, even if you're still learning, you show people you're not someone to ignore. You're someone to respect. So choose your words wisely. Speak with strength, not softness. Speak from truth, not approval. And never shrink your language to make someone else comfortable. Because when your words reflect your power, your presence becomes undeniable. And people don't just hear you. They remember you. They begin to prioritize you. Not because you demanded it, but because your voice told them exactly who you are. Every single interaction you have is training people how to treat you. Every word you say, every boundary you set, or fail to set, every time you tolerate something that goes against your standards, you're sending a message. You're telling people what's acceptable and what isn't. And most people aren't aware of it. They move through life on autopilot, hoping others will just get it, expecting respect without requiring it, assuming that kindness will automatically earn value. But that's not how the world works. You don't get what you hope for. You get what you allow. And if you're not teaching people how to treat you with clarity and consistency, they'll decide for themselves. And you might not like the result. You show people what's okay by what you respond to. You accept lateness. They keep showing up late. You let them interrupt you. They'll talk over you. You give without limits. They'll keep taking. Not because they're bad people, because they're human. People operate at the level of access and accountability you set. If there are no consequences, there's no change. If there's no correction, there's no respect. You don't have to scream to make a point. You don't need drama or confrontation. You just need standards. Quiet, firm, consistent standards that tell the world, this is who I am, and this is what I expect. You train people by holding the line, by not backing down the first time they test you, by not letting guilt or fear make you shrink. Because the moment you break your own standard to keep someone else comfortable, you lose ground. You lose credibility. You lose power. And people notice it, even if they don't say it. They see you bending, and now they know they can push again. But when you hold firm, when you stick to your values even when it's uncomfortable, you earn something that can't be bought: respect. And respect always turns into priority. This is why it's so important to be intentional about everything you do. How you speak, how you respond, you carry yourself. It all communicates something. Your tone teaches. Your eye contact teaches. Your silence teaches. And your reactions, or lack of them, become the blueprint others will follow. You're either teaching people to treat you with value, or you're teaching them that they don't have to. It's that black and white. So take inventory. Where are you lowering the bar? Where are you teaching the wrong lesson? Where are you accepting behavior that deep down, you know disrespects your time, your energy, your integrity? Because whatever you continue to allow, you give permission to repeat. But when you shift, even slightly, the entire dynamic changes. You begin to move with intentionality. You speak with clarity. You enforce consequences. You become someone others have to rise to meet. And those who can't, they fall away. That's not rejection. That's refinement. That's you choosing to lead, not follow. When you train people through your standards, you don't have to chase respect. You become the standard. You stop trying to convince others of your value because your behavior already reflects it. And the ones who see it, they prioritize you. They respect you, not because you demanded it, but because you demonstrated it. At the end of the day, it all comes down to this. How you show up teaches the world how to treat you. Every look you hold, every word you choose, every boundary you protect, every pause you command, every time you say no without apology. You are shaping the perception of your value. And people don't prioritize noise. They prioritize presence. They prioritize clarity, power, control, intention. You don't have to beg to be seen. You don't need to chase approval. You need to stand in who you are and let that energy speak louder than anything else in the room. Apply these strategies, not once, not when it's convenient, but every day. Live them, embody them, let them become who you are. Because the moment you stop asking to be prioritized and start acting like you already are, the world starts aligning. People notice, they respond, and most importantly, they remember you, not because you tried to fit in, but because you refused to shrink. This isn't about tricks. This is about transformation. And when you decide to take control of how you're seen, spoken to, and treated, you don't just earn priority. You become undeniable.